The Interstellar Council of Sentient Species was no stranger to calamity. Over millennia, it had witnessed solar flares devour worlds, wars that scorched planets, and even the collapse of entire civilizations under the weight of their hubris. Yet nothing in its vast history had prepared the Council for what unfolded in the Grand Chamber that day. The Assembly Hall was a marvel of neutral architecture, a vast sphere of shimmering light and sound suspended in the void. Delegates from hundreds of species hovered, stood, or perched on their designated platforms, their forms as diverse as the cosmos they represented. Some pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, others radiated psychic energy, while a few communicated in bursts of scent or shifting colors. Quaron, the Galactic delegate, was the first to speak. His voice, like stones grinding together, reverberated across the chamber as his translucent form rippled in agitation. "Earth has gone silent," he announced, projecting a three-dimensional rendering of the planet into the space above the central dais. The image rotated slowly, its blues and greens vibrant against the black void of space. For centuries we monitored their transmissions. Primitive, yes, but full of vitality. Music, stories, signals of joy and strife. 3 months ago it stopped. Not gradually, not falteringly, instantly. The chamber erupted into a cacophony of voices, each species expressing their shock in their unique way. Some emitted pulses of light that flickered like strobe lights, others released bursts of pheromones that intermingled in the air like a storm of emotion. Chairperson Larix, an ancient being whose arboreal form towered over the assembly, struck the resonant stone with a branch tipped in silver. The resulting hum rippled through the chamber, silencing the uproar. "Order," Larix intoned, their voice a blend of rustling leaves and deep, resonant tones. "We must address this matter with clarity and purpose. Delegate Quaron, what evidence do you bring to substantiate this claim?" Quaron's form pulsed as he transmitted data to the central projection. The rotating Earth split into layers, revealing the absence of electromagnetic emissions that once emanated from the planet. "This is the last signal we received," Quaron continued, playing a garbled fragment of human speech interspersed with static. It ended abruptly, leaving an eerie silence. After that, nothing. No broadcasts, no energy emissions, no detectable life. The silence that followed was even more unsettling than the noise had been. "Could it be a natural disaster?" Veltra, a Farron delegate, asked, her gossamer wings shimmering as she hovered in her platform. "A supervolcanic eruption? A gamma-ray burst?" "Impossible," interjected Kiresh, a crystalline being whose body refracted light into dazzling patterns. "Even the most devastating catastrophes leave traces. Radiation, seismic activity, changes in atmospheric composition. Earth exhibits none of these anomalies. It is as though life simply ceased to exist." Speculation swirled through the chamber, theories ranging from plausible to fantastical. A rogue AI uprising, an alien invasion, or even an experiment gone horribly wrong. None could account for the eerie completeness of Earth's silence. Finally, Chairperson Larix spoke again. "We cannot indulge in conjecture. This council must act. I propose we dispatch a mission to investigate Earth directly." The proposal was met with murmurs of approval. Delegates from various factions volunteered their ships and crews, eager to unravel the mystery. After a heated debate, the council settled on the Aurora, the most advanced exploratory vessel in the galaxy, captained by Sarella Othari of the Illyrian Union. Sarella, known for her keen intellect and unyielding resolve, was a striking figure even among the varied species of the council. Her 4 golden eyes shimmered with determination as she stepped forward, her silver-blue skin catching the light. "I accept this mission," she declared, "and I vow to uncover the truth." The journey to Earth took 3 weeks, a blur of hyperspace jumps and quiet tension aboard the Aurora. The crew, a mix of species chosen for their expertise, worked tirelessly to prepare for the unknown. The silence of Earth weighed heavily on them, a haunting reminder of what they might find. When the Aurora emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, the first sight of Earth was both breathtaking and unnerving. From orbit, the planet appeared untouched, a vibrant jewel in the blackness of space. Its oceans sparkled, its continents were lush, and its atmosphere seemed stable. Yet every scan confirmed the same chilling truth: no life. Sorella stood on the bridge, her hands clasped behind her back as she studied the holographic display. "Are we certain?" she asked, her voice calm but edged with disbelief. "Yes, Captain," replied Tyron, her science officer, a willowy being whose translucent skin pulsed with soft light. "No heat signatures, no bioactivity, no artificial emissions. Even microbial life is absent. It's as if the biosphere was erased." The word hung in the air like a shadow, sending a shiver through the crew. Descending to the surface, Sorella and her team landed in what was once New York City. The skyline loomed intact, its glass and steel towers reflecting the sunlight. The streets below were eerily empty, devoid of the chaos that once defined the city. Stepping out of the shuttle, Sorella felt a chill despite the warmth of the sun. Cars sat abandoned, mid-turn. Restaurants held plates of food on tables, now cold and untouched. In a park, a child's swing moved slightly in the wind. "Where are the bodies?" Ulrich, a robust soldier from the Karen Dominion, asked, his voice low. "There are none," Tyron replied, scanning the area with a handheld device. "No signs of decay, no remains, no organic material of any kind. It's as though they were never here." The team spread out, their search growing more desperate with every passing moment. In a library, books lay open on tables, their pages undisturbed. In a hospital, beds were made as if waiting for patients who would never come. At an airport, planes sat on runways, their engines cold and lifeless. Hours turned into days as the team scoured the planet, finding the same haunting emptiness everywhere they went. In Geneva, they discovered a laboratory with a computer terminal still operational. The screen displayed a single message: "They came. We couldn't stop them." The words sent a chill through the team, their implications terrifying in their simplicity. Who were they? And what had they done to Earth? When the Aurora transmitted its findings to the Council, the reaction was one of collective disbelief and fear. Images of empty cities, lifeless forests, and desolate oceans filled the grand chamber. The message from Earth's computer hung like a specter over the assembly. "They came. We couldn't stop them," Chairperson Larix repeated, their voice heavy with dread. "Who are they?" Speculation erupted once more, but this time it was laced with a deep and pervasive unease. Some delegates suggested an advanced alien species wielding unimaginable power. Others theorized it was a cosmic phenomenon beyond comprehension. But it was Rinth, a historian drifted in orbit above Earth, who offered the most silver hull reflecting the sunlight like a shard of frozen light. His mandibles inside, the ship's crew worked in a tense silence, known as the weight of the mission pressing on every soul aboard. Captain Sorella Athari stood at the observation deck, her 4 golden eyes fixed on the planet below. When they come, it was beautiful, not just heartbreakingly so, and the knowledge that it was utterly lifeless made it all the more haunting. Behind her, Tyrene approached with the same quiet grace that marked his every movement. His translucent skin shimmered faintly, his internal bioluminescence muted, a sign of his unease. The resonant stone "Captain," with a trembling he began, branch. His voice gentle but firm. "We've analyzed the message from the Geneva laboratory again. There's nothing more to uncover. It's an incomplete fragment likely left behind in haste. Whatever they refers to, it's a clue without context." Debated strategies. Sorella turned, her expression unreadable. Stared at the holographic. "Then we find context," mind racing. Somewhere on this planet there has to be more, a pattern, an anomaly, anything. But Tyron hesitated, his pale hands clasping behind his back. Would haunt the galaxy forever. If I may speak freely, Captain, the sheer completeness of this event is what unnerves me most. No microbial life, no remnants of decomposition, no residual biological markers. It defies natural laws. Even the ecosystems are pristine, as though life were plucked from the biosphere without disturbing its fabric. Zarella's gaze flickered toward the planet again. And yet, Earth remains intact. No devastation, no ecological collapse. It's almost as if the planet was preserved deliberately, like a memory. Tyren nodded slowly. A troubling possibility. The captain stepped away from the observation deck, her boots clicking softly against the polished floor. Prepare the team for another surface expedition. Focus on areas with high concentrations of human activity, data centers, government facilities, and communication hubs. If there's a record of what happened, it'll be there. The descent to Earth was as smooth as the first, though the atmosphere of the shuttle's cabin was markedly different. The initial awe had been replaced by a pervasive dread. Every crew member knew they were walking through the tomb of an entire civilization. They landed in Washington, D.C., the former capital of the United States. The city's iconic landmarks rose around them, eerily untouched. The dome of the Capitol building gleamed in the sunlight, its steps empty of the throngs of people who once gathered there. The streets were silent, save for the whisper of the wind. Zarela led the team through the deserted avenues, their footsteps echoing unnaturally loud against the stillness. They passed rows of cars abandoned mid-commute, their interiors perfectly intact. At a cafe, cups of coffee sat on tables long since cooled but undisturbed. "Will didn't animals return?" Alric muttered, his heavy boots crunching on loose gravel. Even after a catastrophe, wildlife would reclaim a city. But this, nothing stirs, not a bird, not an insect. And after an event, no decay either, Tyron added, scanning the area with his handheld device. The air is clean, the soil untainted. It's as though life was surgically removed. They reached the National Archives, a massive building that once housed the most important documents of Earth's history. The grand entrance was unguarded, the heavy doors ajar. Inside, the air was stale but breathable, the light filtering dimly through cracked windows. Zarela signaled for the team to spread out, their movements cautious as they explored the vast halls. Rows of shelves stretched into the shadows, their contents meticulously organized. Papers, books, and digital archives sat undisturbed, a treasure trove of knowledge waiting to be accessed. "Captain," Tyron called out from a nearby console, "this system is still operational. Low power mode, likely sustained by auxiliary generators. We might be able to retrieve data." Zarela joined him, her eyes scanning the flickering holographic interface. The console hummed faintly as Tyron worked, his fingers gliding over the controls with practiced ease. Lines of text and imagery scrolled across the screen, fragments of Earth's final days. Zarela had grabbed the rules as she fended off the cloud of doubt. "There," Tyron said, isolating a file. It was a video recording, grainy but intact. The timestamp indicated it was from 3 months ago, the last days before the silence. The screen flickered to life, revealing a man in a disheveled suit, his face pale and drawn. He stood in what appeared to be a secure command center, monitors blinking behind him. His voice, though distorted by interference, carried a weight of desperation. "This is Director Elias Grayson of the United Earth Defense Command," the man began. "If anyone is receiving this, know that humanity fought until the very end. We didn't understand what we were up against." The image cut briefly to static before resuming. Grayson's expression was one of grim resolve. "They came without warning. No ships, no broadcasts, nothing to suggest an invasion. One moment everything was normal, and the next... He faltered, swallowing hard. They were here, not in a physical sense, but everywhere. A presence, a force that unraveled everything we understood about existence. Our defenses were useless. They bypassed everything: technology, biology, physics. Entire cities went dark in seconds. Millions vanished without a trace. The team watched in stunned silence as the recording continued. Grayson's voice grew quieter, tinged with a terrible acceptance. We tried to communicate, to understand. They didn't respond. I don't even know if they could. All we know is that they came for silence, order, a stillness beyond comprehension. We were too loud, too chaotic, and they... His words trailed off as the screen flickered again. When the recording resumed, Grayson's face was haggard, his eyes hollow. To whoever finds this, they will come for you too. It's only a matter of time. Prepare, hide, or maybe... He hesitated, his voice trembling. Maybe it's better not to fight. I don't know anymore. All I know is that Earth is gone, and we couldn't stop them. The recording ended abruptly, leaving the room in an oppressive silence. Vi, Lucreziane de compta pouvel, Valeric said, his voice low. The silencers. Tyron looked up from the console, his expression grim. A force that unravels civilizations for their chaos. The legends may hold more truth than we realized. Cyrilla straightened, her mind racing. There has to be more. This recording is a warning, but it's incomplete. If we can find the central data archives, we might uncover the full extent of what Earth learned before the end. They continued their search, moving deeper into the building. Every step felt heavier, the weight of the revelation pressing down on them, the knowledge that Earth's end wasn't an accident, but a deliberate act of eradication chilled them to their cores. In the central vault, they discovered more recordings, fragments of humanity's last efforts to understand their fate. Scientists spoke of energy fields beyond detection, forces that operated on principles alien to their understanding. Military leaders detailed futile attempts to resist, their weapons disintegrating before they could even be deployed. One scientist, a woman with weary eyes and a voice thick with despair, offered a haunting insight. They are not invaders in the conventional sense. They do not conquer. They do not destroy. They simply erase. They impose silence where they find chaos, and in their silence nothing can remain. Not life, not memory, not even time itself. The team collected as much data as they could before returning to the Aurora. As the shuttle ascended through the atmosphere, Cyrilla cast one last look at the planet below. The haunting beauty of Earth, now a silent tomb, burned itself into her memory. Back aboard the ship, the data was transmitted to the Council. Cyrilla stood on the bridge, her voice steady but laced with urgency as she relayed their findings. Earth's silence wasn't an accident or a natural disaster. It was an act of deliberate erasure by a force beyond our comprehension. The warning is clear. If we do not learn from Earth's fate, we may be next. The crew watched in silence as the blue-green planet receded into the distance, a chilling reminder of the fragility of life in a universe filled with mysteries they were only beginning to understand. The council chamber was quieter than it had ever been in recorded history. The holographic image of Earth, desolate and silent, hung in the center of the vast hall like a ghost of the vibrant world it once was. Delegates from hundreds of species remained motionless, their varied forms reflecting the weight of what they had just learned. The recordings recovered by the Aurora played on a continuous loop, each desperate word from humanity's final moments, digging deeper into the collective consciousness of the galaxy's most powerful alliance. Chairperson Larrick stood motionless, their towering arboreal form casting a long shadow over the central dais. The resonance stone, typically struck to maintain order, lay untouched. The silence in the chamber mirrored the silence of Earth, a silence none of them could ignore. Cirilla Otari stood at the base of the dais, her silver-blue skin glowing faintly under the chamber's light. Her 4 golden eyes moved slowly across the gathered assembly, gauging their reaction. Her voice, steady despite the gravity of the moment, broke the stillness. We have before us not only the extinction of a world, but a warning. Earth is not the first to fall to this force, nor will it be the last if we fail to act. A low murmur rippled through the chamber as delegates processed her words. Some emitted sounds of agreement, others shifted uneasily in their places. Goron, the Galactic delegate, spoke first, his voice grinding like stone on stone. The recordings confirm what some of our oldest myths have long suggested. The Silencers are not a legend, they are real, and they are watching. Printh, the historian from the Oxian clans, clicked his mandibles nervously. But watching for what? Why Earth? Why now? For millennia, civilizations have risen and fallen without encountering this phenomenon. What triggered their attention? Suresh, the crystalline delegate, refracted light across the chamber as they spoke. The recordings suggest chaos as the trigger. Could it be that Earth's broadcasts, its signals, its noise, drew the Silencers? If so, are we not all at risk? The Council is hardly a quiet entity. The chamber grew louder, the delegates' discussions taking on an edge of panic. Some argued for immediate action, others for caution. A few suggested retreating to their home systems, severing all interstellar communications to avoid attracting the same fate. Cirilla waited until the noise reached a peak before raising her hand. If we fracture now, if we retreat into isolation, we guarantee our vulnerability. The Silencers did not erase Earth civilizations because they were weak. They erased them because they were loud, chaotic, and possibly because they grew too advanced too quickly. If we are to survive, we must understand what provokes them and find a way to protect ourselves. Arik struck the resonance stone, silencing the chamber. Captain Othari is correct. Disunity will only hasten our doom. The Council exists to preserve peace and order among our civilizations. Now, more than ever, we must stand united. A new tension settled over the room as the delegates listened intently. Beltra, the Firan delegate, floated forward, her gossamer wings shimmering. We cannot fight what we do not understand. What can the Council do to uncover the true nature of the Psi-Sensors? The Aurora's mission has shown us Earth's end, but it has not given us the answers we need. Cirilla nodded. Then we continue the search. Earth was not the first world to fall silent. The legends of the Silencers come from somewhere, likely from civilizations that have encountered them before. We need to find those traces, follow the patterns, and uncover the truth. Goron's translucent form rippled with agreement. And how do you propose we do this, Captain? The galaxy is vast, and the Silencers leave no survivors. Where do we even begin? The patterns are there. Tyron's voice came from the back of the chamber, where the Aurora's science officer stood. His pale, shimmering form reflected the Council's light. Earth's silence wasn't isolated. Over the past millennium, there have been other anomalies. Planets with advanced civilizations suddenly devoid of life. Records are sparse, but if we piece them together, we might find a trail. The Council deliberated for hours, debating the risks and rewards of launching a new mission. In the end, the decision was unanimous. A task force, led by the Aurora, would trace the echoes of the Silencers across the galaxy. Cirilla and her crew would not only investigate past events, but also prepare the galaxy for the possibility that the Silencers would return. The preparations for the mission were swift but meticulous. The Aurora was equipped with advanced scanning equipment, stealth capabilities, and a diverse crew representing the Council's brightest minds. As the ship prepared to depart, messages of hope and fear poured in from across the galaxy. Entire civilizations watched as the aurora became a symbol of defiance against an unknowable threat. Their first destination was a system marked in ancient Oxian records, a world once known as Kael'Rin. Millennia ago, it had been a thriving hub of commerce and culture, a beacon of progress. Then, without warning, it went silent. No one had dared investigate, and over time, it had faded into legend. The journey through hyperspace was tense, the crew acutely aware of the stakes. Tyrants spent hours poring over data, searching for any clues that might guide their approach. Ulrich led the security teams in preparing for every conceivable scenario, though he admitted privately that he had no idea what they might face. When the aurora emerged from hyperspace near Kael'Rin, the crew was greeted by a sight that chilled them to their cores. The planet hung in the void, its surface scarred by massive craters and fractures. Unlike Earth, Kael'Rin bore the marks of violent destruction, its once thriving cities reduced to rubble. "Scans?" Sorella asked, her voice calm despite the unease in the room. "No life signs," Tyron replied, his bioluminescence dim. "Not even microbial. The atmosphere is barely stable, and the surface shows signs of extreme thermal and kinetic impacts. Whatever happened here was catastrophic." "Orbital bombardment?" Ulrich suggested. "Unlikely," Tyron said. "The patterns are too precise. It's as though the planet was sculpted into ruin." The team descended to the surface, landing in the remnants of a city that had once been Kael'Rin's capital. The air was thin but breathable, and the ground was littered with debris, shards of glass, twisted metal, and fragments of stone carved with intricate designs. As they explored, they found signs of a desperate last stand. Weapons lay abandoned near barricades, their advanced design still gleaming despite the passage of time. Structures bore scorch marks and strange spiraling patterns that defied explanation. The rebel effort had become so powerful that farmers would camp out in their fields for weeks, protected by a bomb-proof tent. In the heart of the city, they discovered a massive structure, half buried in rubble. Its architecture was unlike anything they had seen before, a blend of organic curves and geometric precision. Inside, they found a chamber filled with crystalline devices, their surfaces etched with symbols that glowed faintly as the team approached. "Is it a data archive?" Tyrone speculated, running his scanner over the crystals. "Possibly," Sorella said, her golden eyes narrowing. "Can you access it?" Tyron nodded, his fingers moving deftly over his device. The crystals responded, their glow intensifying as they projected a holographic image into the air. It showed Kael'Rin in its prime, a world of bustling cities and lush landscapes. Then the image shifted, showing the arrival of an immense, shadowy presence. The cities dimmed, the people vanished, and the land fractured under the weight of an invisible force. As the projection ended, a voice echoed through the chamber, speaking in a language long forgotten. Tyrene's translator struggled to keep up, but the message was clear. "Beware the silence. It comes for all who stray too far, who shout too loud. It is inevitable. Prepare yourselves." The team exchanged uneasy glances. The parallels to Earth were unmistakable. As they returned to the aurora, Sorella couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The silence of Kael'Rin was different from Earth's, a deeper, more oppressive void that seemed to press against her very soul. Back on the ship, the data was analyzed, revealing more about the nature of the silencers. They were not invaders in the traditional sense, nor were they entirely physical. They existed beyond the boundaries of known dimensions, a force that moved with purpose but without malice. They did not destroy out of anger or conquest, but out of a need for order, for silence. The implications were staggering. If the silencers were drawn to chaos, then every signal, every broadcast, every act of defiance risked attracting their attention. The galaxy's interconnected civilizations were their own greatest threat. As the Aurora set course for the next system on their list, Sorella gathered her crew. Her voice was steady, her resolve unshaken. "We have uncovered a terrible truth, but we cannot give in to fear. Knowledge is our greatest weapon, and unity our greatest strength. We will face the silencers, not as scattered worlds, but as one galaxy. Together, we will ensure that no more stars are silenced." The crew cheered, their determination ignited by her words. But deep in her heart, Sorella knew the battle ahead would be unlike anything they had faced before. The silencers were coming, and the galaxy had only just begun to understand the true cost of survival.